On today's Focus Africa, we dig deeper into the cocoa market crisis that has seen prices soar to unprecedented heights amid disease outbreaks and destructive weather. Now, this has caused a bit of concern for Africa, especially West Africa as well. For the first time, cocoa prices have broken the $10,000 per ton barrel, causing ripples throughout the global market in March. Now, cocoa prices surged to over $10,000 per ton in New York, driven by expectations of a significant shortage. Now, this is largely due to severe weather conditions and disease outbreaks in key cocoa-producing countries like Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire.
Now, Nigeria and Cameroon, which account for over 75% of global cocoa production, this crisis is compounded by decades of underinvestment and a reliance on exporting raw cocoa with minimal local value addition. Now, to help us understand the implications of this crisis, we have joining us this morning, just a second there. Yes, we are expecting Fiifi Boafo, Head Public Affairs, Cocobod, and also joining us is Obed Owusu, convener, Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform. He'll be sharing some of the broader social and economic implications of the issue. Also, Isaac Kofi Agyei, analyst SBM Intelligence, who will be sharing some crucial market analysis on the matter. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having
us. So, Isaac, our first question comes to you. What are the main factors driving the dramatic increase that we see in cocoa prices?
Well, so you just said it right there. There are weather conditions and the fact that, some underlying factors are causing cocoa yields in countries like Ghana and Ivory Coast, which account for more than 65% of the global cocoa production. But in Ghana, which I'll focus a bit on, has a peculiar situation which you can't find in Ivory Coast, possibly in Nigeria or even in Cameroon. And that has to do with illegal mining. And illegal mining is really having a toll on the expected cocoa yields of production in Ghana. So aside from the fact that diseases and bad weather conditions affecting cocoa yields in most of the producing countries, Ghana, which accounts for more than 13% of the world cocoa production, has a peculiar challenge. And that has to do with illegal mining, where in Ghana it is called galamsey, where illegal miners are now acquiring cocoa farms and are actually flooding cocoa farms with contaminated water, and it's making it difficult for farmers to continue with producing cocoa in Ghana. So Ghana has a peculiar challenge, unlike what we may see in Ivory Coast, Nigeria, or even Cameroon.
And let me come to you, Obed, for my next question. Now, Isaac just mentioned quite a number of challenges there, from mining to the weather conditions, also to water, contaminated water. Given your CSR or your CSO, your civic society, as well as and its work with local communities, how are local communities how are they responding to the current challenges in the cocoa sector?
Thank you very much for having me. And I do agree with Kofi's assessment of the problems. But we also need to take 3 steps back and understand why and how this problem has come about. This problem of especially the peculiar challenge of Ghana that has to do with illegal mining has come about because of long periods of bad cocoa pricing. And so because of that, communities and farmers that we work with, and I'm sorry and I'm sad to say that some of the farmers that we used to work with, we are unable to work with them anymore because they have sold their cocoa farms to illegal miners. The challenge has been compounded by the weather and also because of diseases that have also affected most of the farms, especially in the western and western north regions of Ghana. And so yes, the communities are struggling, cocoa production is going down, but ultimately it has got to do with long periods of bad cocoa pricing on the international market. Yes, you did mention that the price has skyrocketed. Yes, it just took just about 4 or 5 months for it to move from $3,600 to around $10,000. But before then, there were a lot of, consistent years of bad price, and that has led to communities moving to convert their farms to mining site, converting it to rubber, and in some cases just abandoning their farms altogether. So those are some of the problems. It's not like the communities want to convert, but because of consistent bad pricing, they have had to survive. Cocoa is their livelihood, and if they are unable to make a livelihood out of the cocoa, then they are forced to move away from cocoa. That is where the problem actually started from, the consistent bad pricing on the international market for a long time.
Now, Isaac, it's not the first time we're seeing these kinds of fluctuations, even if this is the highest one so far. But how does it compare to other instances of market fluctuation, and exactly how will this affect the global cocoa chain?
Well, certainly countries that are doing raw production and exporting the beans in raw quantity are not really benefiting from this, if I should put it, good price of somewhere $10,000 dollars per ton, which has dropped significantly to now around between $7,000 and $8,000. This is the reason. The reason is that if you look at countries like Ghana and Ivory Coast, and even in Nigeria and Cameroon, which we all produce cocoa. In Ghana, for instance, we do what we call forward sales. And so, just like you said, this is not the first time we are seeing cocoa price rising to that high. But whenever prices are rising, the countries that usually do the production do not benefit because they do what we call the forward sales. So in Ghana, for instance, we do forward sales of about 60% of the cocoa production in Ghana, where we use that beans to secure the cocoa syndicated loan, which usually is beyond $1 billion every year. But because of the diseases, the fact that galamsey or illegal mining activities is really affecting cocoa production in Ghana, and even smuggling, which last year took away some 150,000 tons of cocoa from Ghana. All of this, if it put together, puts the country in a very tight situation and is not able to take advantage of the good markets or the prevailing markets where cocoa prices are now high. Now, with the next, season, which is the 2024-2025 season, Cocobod is hoping to get somewhere around $1.5 billion from the cocoa syndicated loan. But the question is, will they be able to get the needed beans to do the financing assurance that, look, investors, we have this amount of cocoa, and if you're able to give us this amount of money, we will be able to produce this. Ghana finds itself in a very tight corner, and prices have been fluctuating, and this is not the first time we are having such a high price. But farmers do not really get the benefits, and even the country itself doesn't really get the benefits. For the first quarter of this year, we've seen a very significant drop in the export revenue of cocoa for Ghana. Very, very significant, somewhere more than $500 million, and that's significant.
All right, so I've been made aware that we have Fiifi Boafo, who has joined us in from Ghana. Fiifi is the head of public affairs, Cocobod. Fiifi, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Question for you now, is there any significant point to note when it comes to the fact that Ghana is exporting these beans raw and have no means of, or very little means of actually manufacturing or processing them?
Well, it is not entirely the case that Ghana is exporting just beans. Indeed, Ghana exports beans to cocoa processing companies outside the country. But it's interesting to note that despite the perception out there that we do not in any way process our cocoa, the latest figures we have is that over 40% of the cocoa produced in Ghana is processed here before it is exported. Indeed, it's important to also make the point that, yes, the processing we do is not to the tertiary level, but at least some level of processing take place here in Ghana. I'm referring to processing to the level of liquor, butter, and cake. So yes, some processing happens here in Ghana, but it is not to the level where you process them to the chocolate. Yes, we do some chocolate locally, but the market largely is not within Africa. The market largely is not within Ghana, and the countries that consume the chocolates. They do have these big multinationals that have set up to process cocoa. So mostly you have the cocoa ending up in those markets.
Right. Now, Fiifi, many thanks again for joining us. You are the head of public relations there for Cocobod, which is the Ghanaian board when it comes to cocoa farmers and everything that concerns the crop. So for the board, what steps are they taking to combat the challenges that's posed by climate change and disease outbreaks and this every other factors that our analyst here mentioned earlier?
Well, we are very much concerned about the issues of climate change because its impact on the industry is very significant. Indeed, this year, if you look at the numbers in terms of production, our numbers are not what we expected it to be as a result of the El Nino effect. But then you can also sense that the climate change effect is also being felt. In terms of climate change, the plan going forward is to improve farmer productivity by the introduction of irrigation, because we believe that the severe harmattan that we experience with irrigation, we can better protect the crop, and then we can also help with the productivity of the farm. So that is being happened. But in terms of diseases that affect the industry, I think the biggest challenge has been the swollen shoot virus disease. With the swollen shoot virus disease, which has devastated close to 600,000 hectares of our cocoa farms, that is being treated. Indeed, if you look at the worst affected or the severely affected region, which hitherto was producing about 1/3 of our production, which is the western north region of Ghana, rehabilitation of those farms are ongoing. Indeed, next month, the expectation is that we'll hand over some of the farms that have been affected by the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease. What we're doing with the rehabilitation program is that we cut and block. So the block we cut it to ensure that we do not allow the spread to continue. We block it from that end from continuing to the other parts of the country where the farms have not been affected. And so far, several thousands of farms have been rehabilitated, and we'll actually be handing over some of them to the farmers for them to continue producing cocoa from these newly rehabilitated farms.
Okay.
The good thing with these farms is that these farms have seedlings that have a better capacity of standing against the diseases that affect these farms. So yes, that is also being done.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Fiifi Boafo, Head of Public Affairs, Cocobod, and Obed Owusu. Thank you very much for joining us as well as Isaac Kofi Agyei. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a very interesting conversation.